connections now. We belong to a regional group that is ECOWAS, and the leaders, heads of states of our region, decided during the second summit of the conference to create electricity exchanges, and we are therefore in these dynamics, and we have a number of projects that we would like to carry out using interconnection with the neighboring countries, be it with Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire or Nigeria. For now, the priority projects that have been developed within the region will enable a power of 9,190 megawatts, with 68% for electricity, and then the watts per hour will cost some 98 US dollars. That is half the cost that is being paid by Burkina Faso currently, which is very interesting for my country, as you may see. And currently, the only country that such as Cote d'Ivoire, for instance, 50% of energy, of Cote d'Ivoire's energy, is sold to Burkina Faso. This is to tell you how the country is extremely dependent on the countries of the sub-region. And we consider that interconnection will enable us to have better an energy that is more accessible to populations. And regarding the renewables, now this should serve the poorest segments of our societies. Let me conclude by saying that we want to increase the capacity of power productions, but our government also decided to use the LED lamps or bulbs systems that will enable us to save energy consumption. And here I would like to say, to express my wish that to have fruitful exchanges not only with the region, the countries of the sub-region, but also all countries that have success stories in terms of energy production and its accessibility to the rural communities. I thank you very much for listening.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much indeed.
His Excellency, Mr. Idrissa Thiam, former Minister of Energy and Minister Advisor to the President of the Republic of Guinea.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. I would like to present Guinea, as we say in our books of geography, the water tower of Africa. It's true, if we can try to find a natural definition for the region of West Africa, we can just say it's the basin region of the many rivers that took their roots from Guinea. The Niger River takes its sources from Guinea, the Senegal River from Guinea, the Casamance River, the Gambia River. You name any of the large rivers, they are coming from Guinea. Why? Because in the whole of West Africa, this is the only region towering with the mountains of the Fouta Djallon and the mountains of the Nimba. Because of that, we have a natural comparative advantage of producing hydroelectricity. Yet, in spite, if we look at this situation at the end of 2014, we were managing penury because total electricity production in Guinea was insufficient for even the capital city of Conakry. It was a ridiculously low number. The effective total capacity installed was, of course, around 300 megawatt, but effectively we were able to exploit only less than 100 megawatts. Why this situation? Because of many governance issues in the energy sector, and which has led finally to lack of maintenance of capacity installed and insufficient production. On that basis, in 2012, the government decided to put a recovery program for the electricity sector, which included producing more, included having more transmission lines, and also managing better the utility company. And we added an additional line because we are the water tower of Africa. Guinea energy sector should develop along the lines of the needs of the whole of West Africa. And you will know that we have the West Africa Power Pool, which is an exchange program, and the Minister of Burkina Faso was indicating that Burkina is buying electricity from Cote d'Ivoire. I do hope that it will start buying electricity also from Guinea. And let me just lay down why. Because the West Africa Power Pool will be around a network of distribution line for the region, for which we have secured full funding already. The Islamic Development Bank is funding part of that network, and a large chunk of the network for Guinea is funded by the European Investment Bank also. But for the whole West Africa Power Pool network, the funding is available, and I believe today it has been approved by all the donors, and it's just a matter of maybe 2 years time to launch all the bidding process and build the network. We believe that by 2012, the network will be built, and it will be possible for Guinea and for Burkina Faso to sell its electricity if there is excess anywhere almost in West Africa. And on that basis, our production objective is really to achieve by 2020 self-sufficiency and reach the ODD relating to electricity for Guinea by the end of our next 5-year plan, which is 2020. And also to start exporting electricity. To do so, we have started doing already 2 things. First, we built a hydroelectrical dam of 240 megawatts, which was put online in May of 2015. When it was put online in May of 2015, we were able to move from complete penury of electricity to access to electricity 24 hours a day for every day during the rainy season on the national grid. But of course, the grid covers only half of the country. The other half of the country, we still need to build the grid. To sum up, what we will be really aiming in the energy sector for the next 5 years is to, first of all, build this regional network. And second, to start producing more of hydroelectricity and change the mix of production of electricity in Guinea. In addition to this Kaleta Dam, which has been built, we will be starting to build one of the largest hydro dam in our country, the Swapiti Dam, for 550 megawatts. When Swapiti is built, The plan is calling for delivery of the dam by 2020. At that time, we will not have the demand in Guinea to consume it. We will have to put it on the regional network and start selling it to Burkina Faso, also to Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, and even, we hope, to Morocco. That's what we have. So the story for Guinea is a sad one, but we believe with a bright prospect. How can the IDB and other donors help? I think I will say in 3 ways. The first one will be to continue to build the, network, the integrated network for West Africa, for which the funding is secure. But for Guinea, we would like to have our own national transmission lines for the other half of the country, so we can reach universal access to electricity by 2020. The second way of helping us will be to help us invest in distribution network. What is the problem today with Caleta Online? We move from a distribution of about 80 megawatt in the city of Conakry and the integrated network to a distribution of actually more than close to 400 megawatts. On that basis, every other time, the distribution network is not sustaining the massive power which is arriving. Of course, our donors, including IDB, are helping us rebuild the network, but I believe the needs there is very important, and the investment will have to cover Conakry and all the regional capital. So the investment is massive. The third way the donors community, including the IDB, can help will be to sustain the PPP arrangement for production. Because when I was Minister of Energy, I promised to myself that I will not endebt the country to build a power plant. Why? Because a power plant, a thermal power plant that can live normally for 50 years, in Guinea for many years they used to live only 7 years. And I said, I don't want to continue on that basis. I do prefer to give a private contractor to produce electricity and buy the electricity from him, and then he will maintain his investment, and it can live then the 50 years which is needed. And we have signed some of those for thermal production, which take the Caleta plus the thermal production, which makes for my 400 megawatts that are normally available during the rainy season. But to secure that the private sector will get paid, we need some type of guarantee, and we would like ADB and other donors to help us in the PPP arrangement to produce not only thermal power plants, but the many hydroelectricity production capacity that we have in Guinea. And to mount those PPP arrangements, we will need to give guarantee to the private sector. And I believe ISEC should be able to help us in doing so. I should certainly stop here because I have consumed my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. With no further wait, let me call His Excellency Mr. Al-Haj Mahmoud Issa Dutse, Permanent Secretary and IDB Alternative Governor on behalf of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Bukrami. Your Excellencies, my brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It's my pleasure to share with you in the next few minutes what has been Nigeria's experience in the development of the energy sector infrastructure. We've heard from Mr. Thiam what he described as a rather sad story. I'm afraid you will have to contend with another sad story. Nigeria, as many of you would know, is Africa's oil giant. We've been the largest oil producer in the continent, and together with Libya, we account for 2/3 of the continent's crude oil resources. So we have large oil reserves, and a lot of money has flown to Nigeria on account of this over the years. But as many of you may also be aware, Nigeria has been often cited as a classic case of what has been described as the resource curse. That is the paradox of plenty, wherein there's an abundance of natural resources, but then you have low economic development and misuse of natural resources. Despite the abundant financial resources over the last 40 to 50 years, the energy sector, in particular the electricity sector, has been underdeveloped to the extent that we have a massive demand-supply gap, large electricity shortages, which have seriously constrained economic growth. Our generating capacity at the moment is just about 5,000 megawatts, which made me envious when I heard about the 35,000 megawatt project being developed here in Indonesia. Because of this massive shortfall in electricity, I mentioned 5,000 megawatt installed capacity compared to an estimated demand of more than 20,000 megawatts. Because of the shortage, many of the people, the poor people in particular, rely on fuel wood as a source of energy, with negative consequences on the environment. And those in the middle and upper classes, as well as companies, rely on self-generation, which is quite expensive, using mostly diesel and petroleum. So the focus of government has been to improve substantially the unsatisfactory power situation. 11 years ago, the government came up with a power sector reform program, which was revitalized 5 years later in 2010 through a roadmap for power sector reform. Until then, the electricity provision has been from a government-owned utility, and that was a major part of the problem. So part of the reform program is to move away from public sector provision to the private sector. The utility has been unbundled, and the generation element, generation capacity, and the distribution, retail distribution, have been privatized or concessioned to the private sector. It's just the transmission segment, which is still owned by the government, although it's being run by a private sector outfits under a management contract. And to implement the reforms, the government has also embarked on reform of institutions that will deal that will basically implement the reform. The Ministry of Power has been subject to considerable reform, and there are a number of institutions have been created. There's an Electricity Regulation Commission. There's a bulk electricity trading company which has been set up, which essentially will engage in bulk purchase and sale of power. And then a gas aggregation company that would try and stimulate the use of the greater use of natural gas in the economy. So that has been the thrust of government, and a lot of effort is being made to substantially increase generation capacity, transmission capacity, as well as retail distribution. And now that the private sector has been made the focus of development, a lot of investment funds from the private sector are being looked upon to come into the sector to develop it, not just public sector, but as was hitherto the case, but also the private sector. And that's where we can do with investors, not just locally, but also foreign investors, including providers of finance, not just equity, but also debt, such as the Islamic Development Bank. So basically that has been the rather sorry state, as I said, but we are poised to really substantially increase capacity, and there is scope for investors. There's also considerable scope for cooperation between countries. We've heard from Mr. Thiam and the governor from Burkina Faso, the cooperation that has been going on in the West African sub-region. Nigeria has sold electricity over the years to some of our neighbors, particularly Niger, and also there's a gas pipeline, West African gas pipeline, running through Benin, Togo, and Ghana. So there is scope for greater cooperation. We have a lot of gas, as I said earlier, and we can generate a lot more, and part of this can go to our neighboring countries. So let me stop at this point. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I'm conscious of time. We have no less than 10 minutes left for questions. So apologies if we will not cover all the interesting presentation so far seen. If I may start with one question to His Excellency Mr. Simsek and Turkey. Turkey is located between a major consumer of energy and the major producers of energy. And Turkey today is becoming a first hub of the distribution of energy with a very interesting role to play in reducing the risk of supply. You mentioned a couple of pipelines, Nabucco, TANAP, the new Blue Stream that is in place with supply from Iraq, Azerbaijan, Iran, Russia, Qatar. So Turkey is managing a variety of suppliers and is supplying a European Union which is suffering from elaborating a clear energy policy. We would like to hear your view on the challenges you are facing on both sides to make this dilemma or equation simpler.
Well, thank you. The challenge for Turkey is, of course, to reduce its reliance on imported hydrocarbons. So that's why there's a very strong focus on local and renewable resources. On the renewable side, of course, we've made significant headway. We have about 26,000 megawatts of hydropower plants already installed capacity. Wind energy, I think practical potential is about 20,000 megawatts. We've already done roughly about 5,000 megawatts. Solar, there is huge potential, and it's only beginning now. And in terms of geothermal, we are the world's 7th largest potential market, but we've so far only developed 600 megawatts of that. Now that's the focus in terms of electricity generation, to move away from natural gas-fired power plants to more renewables and hopefully more local coal, because there are now efficient technologies to develop coal. As far as natural gas is concerned, of course, we import 98% of our natural gas, 58% of it from Russia, the rest is mainly from Iran and in the form of LNG from other countries. Of course, such reliance on Russia is a big risk. And that's why we're building this project called TANAP. Essentially, that is aimed at bringing Turkmenistan and Azerbaijan gas to Turkey as well as to rest of Europe. Turkey consumes about 51 billion, 51 BCMs essentially. Billion. And, we would like to reduce our reliance on one party or another. And so we're now also focused on getting more, possibly, a pipeline from Iraq. There's Eastern Mediterranean, newly found sort of gas fields. The most efficient way is through Turkey. But also we are focused on building storage. We have some limited storage, but we would like to build more underground storage so that we have at least 20% of our sort of consumption that could be stored at any point in time to reduce our sort of vulnerability to these movements. As far as oil is concerned, we import roughly about just over 90%, around 90% of oil. Again, it's fairly diversified mix. We have pipelines from Baku to Ceyhan. We have pipelines from Kirkuk, which is in Iraq, to Ceyhan. So there's oil, I think, is we have less of a challenge, less of a risk, is more in the natural gas side. We've also have, in terms of energy supply security, we have intergovernmental agreements with Japan and Russia to build over 9,000 megawatts of nuclear power plants. Plus, of course, our entire transmission and distribution networks are financed through feed-in tariffs. But, we have regulations and we increase tariffs to finance all the investments. And for the renewables, we have feed-in tariffs. We have a fair bit of incentives for the renewables. So we are faced with significant challenges, but we do have a very good strategy to manage those challenges and hopefully avoid any hiccups along the road. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My next question is to His Excellency, Mr. Mohammed Boussaid, the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs of the Kingdom of Morocco. I think Your Excellency, you've been so humble and modest of what Morocco has achieved in the last 2 decades. Yes, you are on 99% of coverage, but Morocco was only 18% 2 decades ago. This is a true success story that I think the world has to share, because Morocco has diversified its energy supply without a necessity of increasing the price. I think the government has much credit, or the several governments or the highest authorities in the country in achieving this. It is certainly a success story for the rest of the world. With 2020 is a magic year, so all the strategies are for 2020. So I hope that this 2020 will change the world. In Morocco, we're going to have 2 gigawatts of wind power, 2 gigawatts of solar power, 2 gigawatts of hydropower. As you said, over 42% of the electricity will be from renewables. We would like to hear what are the real factors that made this success story, from legal, financing, operational, for Morocco to achieve this.
Oh, thank you very much for your remarks, your congratulations. I think in energy, like other sectors, the key success is one, to have a good vision. The second thing, as my brother said, to have good governance. And the third, have to have, the volunteer to succeed, on what you are making as a public policy. In the energy, Morocco have had, for a long time, in my opinion, a good planification, of course, good governance, but we are on the way to reform our governance, to put in place a very efficient regulation. Morocco has also tried to attract more and more foreign investors in many sectors, especially in the energy. And I want to notice, as my colleagues say, that the PPP is one of the largest and the biggest opportunity to go forward and to invest rapidly, very quickly. Of course, the maintenance is one of the aspects, but also to make the supply for the some countries who didn't get the capacity to go for more debts, for more loans, because it's one of the biggest issue. Let me just mention 2-3 things that I didn't say in my speech. The most important things in energy, electricity in particular, is these interconnections. Morocco is already interconnected with Algeria in electricity, with Europe, EU. We doubled the capacity of the cable in the last years, but we are all on the way to double again this capacity. So we are connected with Europe, all Europe, and of course it's one of the interesting points, because to develop renewable energy, we will be, of course, in the near future, exporting electricity from, renewable resources to all Europe. And of course, Morocco will be pleased to buy Guinean electricity. We need now, because all this region, CDAO, is already connected, Niger, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria. We are on the way to complete this interconnection with a small section with Mauritania, and of course we will be pleased to buy all, not just for Guinean electricity, but all this region, African region, and it's one of the aspects that we need to secure, because to secure the supply of energy. And for me, I know that IDB is already highly involved in this kind of project, to finance the structural project, regional project. Of course, IDB had to continue to support all this regional project, for the interconnection. Now 30% of Moroccan energy is already imported. And this biggest plan for electricity, renewable energy, is on the way to give to satisfy our demand. But also, as I mentioned, because Africa don't have chance, of its development. Now Africa is on the way to develop by itself, and the energy is one of the biggest issue, because there is no development without energy. Is another, of course, message to IDB and to of course, African Bank of Development and all these financial institutions, to put the energy in the priority, in the topic, at the top of the list of the issues that they need to involve in. But there's another chance that because Africa need also to invest more and more in renewable energy, because of course now the development countries have been, are more responsible of our, of the climate change. But the opportunity to develop Africa in according biggest importance to renewable energy is also a chance for Africa and for the world. And of course, Morocco will host in Marrakesh in next November the COP22. Many examples of experiences in renewable energy will be shown at this moment. The last things I would also to insist on is the efficiency of using the energy, but also to a quick development, especially in Africa, for this distribution network. If you see the African map, from the sky, and you see the word, Africa is still in dans l'ombre, in darkness. So please, IDB and other institutional, financing need to develop this continent, to insist on clean energy. And of course, Morocco is playing its role and taking its responsibility to cooperate in the spirit of South-South cooperation with all our brothers in this region, and especially in African countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. I will just ask one question for our colleagues and excellencies to hear the African side. Mr. Thiam has a very interesting idea on involving the private sector in financing the power network in West Africa on the same wave with Her Excellency Ms. Koulibaly. I would like to hear your views on what other international development agencies or foreign capital specifically can play a major role into developing those important projects in the region. Mr. Thiam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. Well, for building African infrastructure, donor development aid will not be sufficient. It is important to find innovative way of funding them. In particular, in the energy sector, for producing electricity, I was amazed when I was looking at the figures that the Minister of Indonesia presented with trillions of gigawatts installed for the country, and even Turkey indicated something like also 22 trillion of gigawatts installed. We are discussing a couple of hundreds of gigawatts. No country can emerge without sufficient electricity production. And if you try to do a correlation between GDP growth and something physical, I think the strongest explanation factor will be electricity. Even in 1917, Lenin was saying that development, even socialism, was electrification. It's true today. Electrification, more than education, will contribute to growth. Because if you have electricity, you can get health, you can get education, you can get transportation. If you don't have electricity, you don't have access to the internet, you can't have access to even education. True. Building power plants is a commercial business. Private sector should be put in line for that. And I believe in Africa, the first option can be to build power plant, to have independent producer build them. That's the line that we would like to take in Guinea. We have started already with thermal power plants. We have some independent producer producing electricity. You know, for hydro dams, we have cyclical, seasonal capacity. Yes. We experienced it with Caleta. During the rainy season, we had 240 megawatt, we couldn't use it. But during the dry season, it comes down to very little, and we need to have thermal production to complete the capacity. And that's why we replace some of our old power plants by independent producer. They came with brand new plants. And for our hydro electricity capabilities, Swapiti will be a PPP arrangement. Not maybe a full-fledged PPP arrangement because the share of the government will be quite high, but it will be a PPP arrangement. All other dams that we will be undertaking will be through PPP arrangement, including those on the basin of the Senegal River, which we are developing with our neighbors from Senegal and Mali. But the guarantee scheme is important to ensure that, and also governance and clear institutional framework is important to secure the investors that it's good business to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Koulibaly.
Is it working? Yes. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Well, I would like to say that from my point of view, as it was put by the one who spoke about Guinea, regarding financing, we need to have various options. A state on its own cannot have investment in energy sector on their own. This is why we need first to use the regional integration groupings in order to develop the potential within our region. We talked about ECOWAS for Guinea and Nigeria, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. There are countries that have potential that can be used at the regional level. This is why we think that the Islamic Development Bank can support these regional groupings in order to have structuring investment within the region. Second element, as far as the countries are concerned, it is important that we contribute to the issues of climate change. And it is important for a country like Burkina Faso that has sun over the year to use the source of solar energy through PPP. We realize indeed that this is a new funding mechanism that exists, but which is not yet harnessed by our countries. Three, it is important beyond the IDB to use the commitment within some structures. The African Development Bank has a program at the continental level in the energy sector, and the World Bank, we have also SFI that has a program to encourage the private sector in the energy sector. And the most important thing is experience sharing. I'm delighted to say that the minister in charge of energy has gone to Morocco, and I would like to commend the relationship with my country with Morocco. The point is not to reinvent the wheel, but to build on success stories and experiences in order to improve our work. And let me conclude by saying that Africa is in the dark, but it has the potential to get out of darkness and to have light for everyone. Thank you very much indeed.
Mr. Issa Dutse, do you have any?
Thank you. I endorse basically what has been said by my colleagues from the continent. I just want to add one or two things. The demand for electricity is enormous on the continent. And I've seen one estimate. The total generating capacity in sub-Saharan Africa is not up to what Spain, just one country in Europe, generates. So that should indicate to you the to increase generating capacity. And a lot of money obviously will be required. Government does not have, governments across the continent do not have the money. So the sensible thing being done now is giving more prominence to the private sector. But for the private sector to come in, either local entrepreneurs or foreign investors, the projects have to be profitable. And that's where one constraint is important. In most countries, the prices charged for electricity are not fully cost reflective. And obviously, unless that is addressed, the private sector will be limited in coming in. And I think it was Mr. Siam who mentioned innovative ways of financing have to be utilized. And here I'll give one example. I've been involved in a project, I believe it was Uganda, where private sector entities came in to provide power, but then the prices charged could not be afforded. I mean, the price that would guarantee profitability could not be afforded by the rural communities. So a Norwegian fund came in to provide the difference between what is profitable and what the end users can accommodate or can afford. So I think that's one model that can be used in more countries. Where grants are involved, they can be used in that wise, or governments can meet just the difference, and more private sector funding can be provided in that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Issa. I would like to invite Dr. Mansour Mukhtar, Vice President of the IDB, to close these remarks, and I would like to thank the panelists for their contribution. I think by listening to you, we feel more comfortable about the issue of energy, because everybody has got a vision, everybody seems to have a solution, and you give the audience and the learners like us a hope to the solution of the problems. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for the effort. Well done.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words to bring this session to a close. First, to thank all the participants for their contribution and for sharing their rich experience, knowledge, insights, and perspectives in relation to the global and local dynamics of energy supply security. I would also like to thank the technical presenters that were with us earlier on, as well as the moderator for the two sessions, Dr. Bukrami, for a job well done. And of course, the participants deserve our commendation for being part of joining us here today. This event has provided us an excellent opportunity to exchange views and discuss energy and development issues and their solutions. And we've had several noteworthy proposals in terms of how we could enhance energy supply security in our member countries, and focusing on increasing supply, focusing on regional integration and connectivity, providing or playing a better role in harnessing everything together. A lot of country experiences on reforming the sector, from market deregulation and privatization of production as well as distribution, and areas of progress that has been recorded in renewable energy, particularly in Morocco, where we have the largest project in the world, and the call for investments in regional networks to really exploit comparative advantage, and also to foster to exploit economies of scale, as well as foster synergy and complementarity. A lot of emphasis on the need to focus on the role of private sector, but the challenges in relation to the environment, both legal, regulatory, but also the pricing structure, and they need to do something in that area. Distribution networks, the potential in oil and gas sector. I think all of these are noteworthy areas that we need to work on and really prioritize our efforts. There was some indication of the need to really find ways of sharing the rich experiences across member countries, and I think that's a very good suggestion. And certainly it's been a very productive session, and as you're all aware, the Islamic Development Bank has several initiatives in these fields supporting member countries in very diverse geographical regions. And I can say that what has come out also from this is the need for cooperation among member countries is even really big now, more than ever, very important to find a way of harnessing collectively our efforts and to move the agenda forward. We will continue to face this problem in the coming years in terms of ensuring adequate and continuous energy supply and dealing with the high cost of energy and volatility in our member countries. And I think particularly for African countries also the question of energy poverty and access to energy, where really the figures are quite striking and somehow require a lot more effort. And again, the issue of the overall emerging global agenda where energy and climate change are increasingly intertwined and need to look at things from that lens becomes evident. And I think there's a lot of takeaway from this, and I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate the commitment of the Islamic Development Bank to continue to explore ways of strengthening its partnership with member countries in addressing some of these challenges and helping improve access to modern and clean energy, helping improve clean and environmentally friendly power, electricity generation, and strengthening regional connectivity, integration, and cooperation in all these sectors related to energy supply security. Certainly there's a huge financing gap need, and we do appreciate that our efforts would not be sufficient, and we need to, of course, strengthen partnership with other institutions, other agencies, and particularly also the private sector. We have the private sector operations and public-private partnerships that we try to foster and strengthen, and the insurance arm of the institution will reposition itself to be able to support such initiatives. Certainly, a lot of work is needed in moving from billions to trillions in terms of the resources required, and I'm sure that with the collective efforts, we'll be able to address these challenges. On this note, I would like to reaffirm once again IDB's commitment to working closely with the member countries and the development committee in its quest to support inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Thank you very much.
where government ministers and senior bank officials from the IDB's 56 member countries joined together with hundreds of policymakers and members of international partner institutions to focus on one goal: to enhance growth and alleviate poverty through infrastructure development and financial inclusion. In addition to more than 30 informative seminars and meetings, this year's annual meeting features a major exhibition showcasing innovation and the latest solutions to today's challenges. Come to Jakarta and share your experience. Together, we can explore innovations, develop new partnerships, and strengthen cooperation in remarkable Indonesia. The 41st IDB Annual Meeting, May 15th through 19th, 2016, Jakarta, Indonesia. Please visit the IDB Group Annual Meeting website.